Welcome to the latest episode of the Federal's WorldlyWise, a weekly video show that deconstructs trending issues in international developments. Last week in this program, we discussed how the newly elected United States President Donald Trump, in his second term, was helping Israel by trying to evict around 1.5 million to 2 million Palestinians in Gaza in the guise of resettling them in Jordan and Egypt. Both countries refused to oblige Trump. Since then, over the last 1 week, there have been more dramatic developments on this front. Now, Trump has turned even more brazen. He's preparing the US military to take over a completely bombed out Gaza Strip and turn it into a huge shopping mall, a glitzy township, and the best in luxury. All of it encapsulated in the word Riviera, which he uses, meaning coastline in the Italian language. The Riviera is the coastline between France and Italy in Europe. That was a haunt for aristocrats in the 19th century. Even today, the stretch holds one of the most sought after real estates anywhere in the world. No wonder Trump, once a real estate businessman, wishes to turn Gaza into another Riviera. But sadly for Trump, the US and Israel, this could turn out to be the proverbial building of a castle in the air. Trump is referring, mind you, of all places, Gaza, the tiny coastal strip that has been the victim of a relentless 15-month Israeli assault that has cost around 47,000 lives, destroyed an ancient region, and displaced an estimated 2 million Palestinians out of a total of 2.3 million from their homes. The US president is playing the Israeli game of clearing Palestinians from Gaza, shunting them off to Jordan and Egypt, and then rebuilding the area for anyone in the world to settle there. And who would that be? Given the manner in which Israel has over the years resettled the Jewish community in the occupied Palestinian territories of Gaza, West Bank, and East Jerusalem, it is more than likely that the Jewish community will grab the US reconstructed Riviera if ever it happens. And evicted Palestinians will never be allowed to return to Gaza, as has happened with other Palestinians elsewhere in the region. But Trump's diabolical plan to take over is not as easy as buying candy from the neighboring store. Already, the entire Arab region has vociferously opposed his plan, and by the looks of it, the US president's program will end up in creating one more mess for the region. The US, irrespective of who is in power, does not appear to have learnt its lessons. Or it is that the establishment in Washington, D.C. does not care. US interventions in the Middle East and neighboring regions have managed to create irreversible problems. Take the US invasion of Iraq in 2003. The original stated intention of the then Bush administration was to overthrow Saddam Hussein amidst its so-called war on terror. Saddam was indeed overthrown, but the rest of it boomeranged, including terrorism, which spiked as a result. The emergence of the Iraqi branch of the Al-Qaeda and revolt by a section of the Shia turned the US intervention into a mess, followed by the arrival of the Islamic State that destabilized the entire region. The effect of the invasion in 2003 continues to reverberate even until now, including in Iraq. Prior to Iraq, the US intervened in Afghanistan when the Soviet Union invaded that country in end 1979. In attempting to defeat the Soviets in Afghanistan, the US policy of actively supporting the fundamentalist Mujahideen gave rise to extreme and violent form of Islamic political outfits that came back to bite the US, foremost among them the 9/11 attacks. More recently, when the spontaneous and popular upsurge for democracy erupted in Tunisia and Egypt, and later spread to other Arab nations, the intervention by the US, along with its European allies, to manipulate the situation backfired in most of the nations. The effects of this are still smoldering. The effect of this is still smoldering in many of the countries that witnessed the upsurge, including in Syria, Libya, and Yemen. And let's not forget the Biden administration's insistence on admitting Ukraine into NATO that instigated Russia's Vladimir Putin into attacking Ukraine. That war is still continuing, causing the deaths of hundreds of Ukrainians, the destruction of Ukraine's infrastructure in large parts of the country, and the negative effect the war has had on the world. The war is still continuing despite Trump's boastful promise of ending it on the first day of taking over office in his second term. With all of this mess in the US's kitty, Trump's announcement of taking over Gaza is causing serious consternation, especially for the Palestinians and the Arab world. Question is, will Trump actually walk the talk? What does he mean by taking over? It should simply mean occupying Gaza, that is already under Israeli occupation. Israel will, of course, move aside and watch Trump doing the job for them. No wonder Benjamin Netanyahu described Trump as Israel's best friend ever earlier this week during his visit to the US. For Palestinians and those in Gaza in particular, there is no relief. All the happiness they experienced following the recent ceasefire between Hamas and Israel must be already evaporating. A bigger challenge faces them. Trump should understand the emotional, cultural, and personal connect of Palestinians to their land. It is not just about real estate or a piece of property that can be taken over, ignoring the historical link of people to their land. Unfortunately, since we are talking about the US and in particular Trump, even the most ardent optimists might find it difficult to spot a silver lining among the dark clouds that are gathering on Gaza's horizon.